Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to give everybody a second or two to log in with their audio, and we will get started as soon as everybody's kind of all set up here.
Here's Sam.
Okay.
I got booted for some reason.
So do we all, Sam.
What?
We all did.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's
So
nothing.
it looks like we have a number of our attendees on, so we're going to just get started here. Wanted to thank everybody for joining us for our Bringing Back Delco series. Locally, what does yellow phase mean? Just want to go over a few logistics for the call. My name is Trish McFarland. I'm the president of the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, and I will act as the facilitator for the questions at the end. So I want to remind everybody, if you have questions during this webinar, if you can type it into the Q&A or in the chat section, we will make sure that we have your question addressed and answered. And if something cannot be answered, we will provide resources and answers after the call is over. And if there are any municipal managers on the line and you are calling in from your cell phone, and there's a question directed to your municipality, if you can shoot us a note in the chat, and we will make sure that we direct that question to you. So sometimes we're not exactly sure whose phone numbers are what. So without further ado, I'm going to get this program started. I'm going to introduce Elaine Schaefer from Delaware County Council, who is leading us this afternoon and on this task force. Elaine, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tricia. I want to say thank you all for being here today with us, and thank you so much to the Chamber for setting it up and hosting it. I'm very, very happy to be a part of this group and to tell you a little bit about this group, the Bringing Back Delco Task Force, which was formed in partnership with the County Council and the Chamber of Commerce and our Commerce Center. And it's really, we've put together an advisory group of all sorts of business owners and stakeholders in the community, different types of organizations and government entities to really tackle the issues and help our businesses and organizations navigate this transition from being in red and then opening up a little bit into yellow and then hopefully soon going over to green, and help everyone figure out some of the nuances of this. This group has already met once, the advisory committee, and will be convening regularly to address the issues as they come up. We've already, in the first week, come up with some really great initiatives. We have a Delco business opening toolkit put together that we are offering to our businesses, and we've already had 400 businesses sign up for it. It's basically a little kit of everything you need for the COVID regulations of opening up, like wipes, the disinfectant wipes and masks, etc. We have a helpline set up. We have, we're helping collect and post and share out the model protocols and model guidance for the different industries. All of that can be found on the website, bringingbackdelco.com. It's .com, right? Yeah, .com. And if you get on that website, you can navigate and find some of these things, including the link to buy one of the kits if you're interested in doing that. All of this has been done to really help make this an easier process because it's been unclear. The guidance from on top has not always been clear. So once again, it's Delco figure this out and really help our businesses maximize the opportunity here in getting to the yellow. One other thing that we're doing as a group, as an advisory group, is sponsoring these webinars like the ones that we are doing today, to get everyone together, hash these items out, find out what the recurring themes are, and either get an answer today or get an answer to you all following up. And lastly, using the expertise that we have in the chamber and at the council and at the county level to help you maximize your opportunities. So we have our planning department here who's going to help and talk a little bit about some of the zoning and planning aspects of reopening under these circumstances. So welcome everybody. We are really looking forward to hearing your input and your questions, and hopefully this will be of assistance to you.
Thank you, Elaine. Now I'm going to introduce Steve Byrne, who's the Executive Director of Visit Delco, PA. And Steve's going to go over, do an overview of the outdoor dining regulations from the state. Steve, thank you.
Thank you, Trish. As Trish said, my name is Steve Byrne. I'm with the Visitors Bureau of Delaware County, Visit Delco, PA. And I want to go over some points that we have for outdoor dining in the yellow phases. Yellow, as we said, yellow is the first phase that we have coming out of this. And it's a caution phase. And that's kind of what the message we're going to get across here. These points that I'm going to go over have come from Pennsylvania Restaurant Lodging Association, PRLA. If anybody was on the webinar with Melissa Bova, you're going to hear some of the things that she pointed out. But we'll go through these and then we can answer questions. Just as a background, PRLA has been a partner with the governor's office. They came up with the Pennsylvania Restaurant Promise, which I will go over in a little bit, which had 3 goals. And one of those goals was to become a voice for the restaurants with the governor's office. They submitted their documents on April 20th. And from then they became a partner. So they've been working with the office, the governor's office, on coming up with guidelines on how to open safely. So what does yellow mean? June 5th, which is Friday, midnight on Friday, restaurants can open with outdoor seating. General parameters, outdoor seating, like it says, you can only be seating outside, cannot seat customers inside. There is no access to the indoor areas, with the exception if you need to go through the indoor area to get to the outdoor seating, you can do that. If you've got indoor restrooms, customers can come in and be inside and use the indoor restrooms. So it's basically outdoor seating. You're going to hear during this social distancing, that's going to be a big key word right now. Make sure we're keeping 6 feet between parties, not 6 feet from tables. If you have a person sitting in a chair, the party next to them has to be 6 feet from that. They have to be 6 feet apart. No self-service, no buffets, no self-service drinks, no self-service condiments are allowed either. No condiments on the tables. So they are recommending you use the sealed up packets of condiments that are disposable. Big thing here also is reusable menus cannot be used. A lot of people have laminated menus that they hand out and they reuse them. You cannot use that. Paper menus that can be disposed of. We're hearing some restaurants are using iPads that they can look the menus up and then sanitizing them after they're used. The other thing somebody suggested was to have the people at the table, the customers, call the menu up on their phone. And everyone's got a phone right there and they can look at the menu that way. And this is all to eliminate touching and spreading of the COVID virus. No refilling of containers brought in by customers. And that's really talking about growlers or a coffee shop that may have a reusable cup. Extension of licensed premises. This is where we come into the license with the LCB. There's 2 types here. The extension on your own property, if you want to outdoor dining, move into a parking lot. And again, I'm talking, step back a minute. These guidelines are from the state. And I know we're going to have Amanda Serrock in a minute talk about municipalities. These guidelines are strictly for the state. If there's any municipality guidelines that you need to look into, please contact your local municipality there. But you can expand onto your own property. The LCB, PRLA right now is working with the LCB on having your application extended. fast tracking that application so that it's an automatic approval. That is supposed to be happening today or early tomorrow is what I'm being told through PRLA, but it's going to be an application that you're submitting to the LCB and getting automatic approval for the extension of your property. Some standards that I want to talk about. First of all, the following the guidance for the business permitted to, it's the guidance, and this is on the chamber website for businesses in the restaurant industry permitted to open. Please follow that. It's just the standard guidelines. The question's been coming up, do customers need to wear masks? And the answer is it is highly recommended, yes. They're to wear the mask when they come in. Obviously, when they're dining, they can take it off. But if they're entering or exiting, they're being asked to wear the mask at all time. Employees should always be wearing masks, and that's important. Again, social distancing we talked about, and that's going to be the metric of compliance right there. Any gaming, video games that you have in the restaurant or outside there, dance floors, child play areas are still closed. It's strictly for dining. Another point of emphasis here, and this is something, word of mouth is going to be very important as people or customers come in. Have an employee be assigned to sanitizing frequently touched areas. If the guests see that you're going above and trying to keep your restaurant clean, that word is going to get out and it'll be good PR for you. Bathrooms, using the bathrooms, put tape on the floor so that you're keeping the 6 feet distance and keeping customers back. Using tape on the floor is very important as well. Some items of note. One of the questions that's been coming up a lot is parties. You're hearing parties of 10. What constitute a party? If a group comes in, and the 10, party of 10 is a recommendation, but if a group of 12 come in together, that's one party. If you can seat them at one table, that's okay, but the party next to them needs to be 6 feet apart. So there's really no limit on the number of party. The guideline is 10, but again, it's the social distancing that we're emphasizing here. Do as much no contact as possible. If you have lavatories that have no contact faucets or towel dispensers, do as much of the no contact as possible. It's guidelines that you have to do, and then there's guidelines that you should be doing. And the should be is really making it comfortable for the guest to know that the restaurant is clean and it's a healthy environment. So that's basically the points that I have, Trish. I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions that I can answer as we go along, but it's you know, the word is coming down to make sure that we're following the guidelines, especially the social distancing.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve, for giving us that overview. And remind everybody that if you do have a question, you can either put it in the chat portion of the webinar, or you can use the Q&A, and we will make sure we have that answered. Now I would like to introduce Amanda Serrock, who is the Concord Township Manager, as well as the President of the Consortium of Governments. And Amanda is going to give us an overview on all things local, municipal.
As much as I can, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. Thank you to County Council for putting this task force together and for including the Delaware County COG. We do a lot of great things as municipal managers in our local governments, and it's important we're included in all of these conversations. So I really just wanted to talk to a lot of the business owners are on there. The managers that are on this call and the municipal officials on this call already know this, but I want to make sure that the business owners included here recognize that while Steve just did an excellent job of explaining the yellow phase and what's expected out of the governor's guidelines, each municipality has different regulations regarding this type of use. So the difficulty for our business owners is from one town to the next, we don't have sort of one size fits all ordinances or regulations, especially when it comes to something like outdoor dining. For example, if you come to Concord Township, most of our commercial areas are in commercial centers, and we have parking lots. Whereas if you go to Media or you go to Swarthmore Borough, you'll see a totally different environment where they have a downtown where the businesses are right in with the streets. So everybody has different sets of rules. What I will point out is that, I mean, especially in light of COVID-19, but as municipal officials and leaders, our number one job is the safety, health, and welfare of our community. So the rules and regulations that we already have in place are to that effort. So when COVID-19 hit and the governor, moved quickly to say, okay, we're going to now allow outdoor dining, folks should understand that municipal officials have been working around the clock to try to find ways to assist our business owners any way that we can. What I can tell you is that there are different ways of going about this, and there are various options that municipalities can explore, but those options need to be approved by their elected officials and their solicitors as they make those decisions. What I can tell you is that Councilwoman Schaefer actually asked the Delaware County Planning Commission, namely Sam Haber, to explore coming up with some potential regulations for those of us who are interested in changing our zoning or other codes related to this use, so that it would make it easier for municipalities to have an example to follow if they would like to consider that option and talk through it with their solicitors, managers, and elected officials. Some of us have chosen, my municipality in particular, has chosen to follow, to pass a resolution under the guise of or umbrella of our emergency declaration for COVID-19 that allowed us to implement temporary regulations to quickly move with the governor's guidance that we felt took the important things out of our code regarding safety that we've now implemented and passed a resolution as of Monday morning. The municipal managers in the COG have actually received that from me. So they do have an example, and I've also sent it to the chamber if anyone would like to reach out in that manner to take a look and use that as an example. A lot of us, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. If there's things we can use and pull from one another, we all do that already as local municipalities. Additionally, there could be other options. There may be municipalities that don't have outdoor dining regulations and can go about other ways. But the important message here is that as a business owner, you need to reach out to your local municipality. You can do that via your manager, your council board commissioners. You can reach out to your building code officials and they'll happily help you. What I will add, there is a layer though in here, is that due to COVID-19, many of the municipalities are not fully operational at this time. They are working remotely. So they are not working, but they're just working from home due to the situation or allowing only essential business transactions to occur in their building. So please have patience. Please email and reach out to those folks and they will get back to you as soon as they can. I can assure you that all of us are wanting our businesses back open. Many of us are urging county council and others to, push the governor's office to, get things back to normal or what our new normal can be. And we hope to get to the yellow phase as soon as we can. But other than that, I think it's important that everybody know that safety, health, and welfare is in mind when you're talking about these type of items. Having diners outside, whether that's in the street, public rights of way, to assure that those diners are safe and the restaurants are protected as they're doing that. So with that, if anyone has questions, I'd happy to answer. I know there's some municipal managers on the phone. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Amanda. And I do see a couple questions, which we will start to answer soon. And I know that there's definitely some things that we want to get to. But want to just remind folks to put their questions in the Q&A. But if you have your business in a specific municipality, obviously we all do, if you could also just write that in the question as well, so we can make sure that we are, some folks we know, but if we don't, if you could just kind of let us know where you're from so we can direct that question in the right way. Sam, before we answer questions, do you want to just give an overview of what you're going to be doing, how you'll be sharing with some of the, doing some of the temporary resolutions, maybe sharing some guidance?
Sure. So I think just to emphasize something Amanda mentioned, the key for reopening businesses is going to be to ultimately consult with your municipality. The CDC and the state have guidelines and requirements for the yellow phase, but then also your local township and borough is also going to have certain guidelines or requirements that will need to be met for you to open. So what we're going to do here at the county is to provide tools to the municipalities. In effect, either model zoning provisions related to outdoor dining, or model provisions for how outdoor dining may be permitted, and whether it may be permitted in the right-of-way on the street in the form of a parklet, for instance. As Amanda noted, not every municipality may allow outdoor dining or may not want to permit outdoor dining, but given that it's the only way to, under the yellow phase, serve customers at this point, we're thinking that municipalities will want to incorporate that option if they don't already. So we'll be providing model ordinances and model guidelines to all the municipalities, and they'll be posted on the county's website as well. So if the municipalities want to make use of those, they can.
Perfect. Sam, thank you so much. And we will start to get to some of our questions here. Before we get into the specific questions, I want to make sure we recognize who Sam Haber is. Sam, you are from the planning department. Can you just tell us who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm the manager of community and regional planning with the Delaware County Planning Department. One of the things we do is work on zoning ordinances for some of the municipalities in the counties, updates or rewrites. So again, we'll be providing information and guidelines to the townships and the boroughs. And then it'll be up to them to decide if they want to implement them or not. For instance, if a municipality wants to consider a parklet, which would allow the extension of outdoor dining areas into a portion of the street, we will be providing model design guidelines for how to do a parklet to the municipalities.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. And Pat, can you just say hi to everybody? Tell us who you are.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again, Councilwoman Schaefer and the Chamber for putting this together. We've been rather active in the Commerce Center administering the Delco Strong Grant Program. Quickly, we've had over 1,000 applicants. We've pre-qualified 800, and we're starting to disperse money, and we're meeting with County Council tonight, look for additional funds, and everybody's in this together. We're all working together. And Trish, thank you for hosting this.
Thanks, Pat. And Jack? Sorry.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jack Stollsteimer, and I'm the district attorney, just observing and trying to help out whenever we can. As we've said before, from the beginning of this pandemic, local law enforcement, I think, has been focusing on education and attaining voluntary compliance. And we're very happy to say that everybody in Delaware County is stepping up and keeping public health as part of our public safety mission. And we want to continue to support everything that everybody on this call is doing going forward.
Thank you, Jack. So for the first question, Elaine, are you comfortable answering this one? I know I have some numbers, but the first question about the Federal CARES Act and the discretionary funding. I know that there's some things on the council's agenda tonight, but can you go into a little bit about that, about the funding?
So it looks like this question is specifically to the 3.9 that went to the state.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 biggest counties got their own allotment, and then there was a big chunk that went to the state give out. And that $3.9 million has been divvied up in the legislation that was passed, I think, last Friday. And it's if you want to look it up, it's HB 2510. We actually at the county have a really beautiful breakdown of the entire thing and what's going to what, and we can put that on the Bringing Delco Back, because it's very helpful to see where all this money went. But the vast majority of it, well, not vast, a big majority of it went to all of the other counties that didn't get anything from the first CARES Act. So the 7 counties got direct, and Delaware County itself got $98 million, but all of the other counties got nothing. Now they're divvying up $629 million of that $3.9 billion. And it's on a population percentage, divvying it up. There's also a big chunk of it for healthcare, hospitals. There are programs for dairy farmers in there. There's, I think, 10 or 20 million for cultural organizations. It's a whole laundry list of programs. There is a big chunk going to CFA, which would be DCED loans, or grant program, grant program for businesses. That has not been announced exactly how that's going to work yet, but I would imagine any business in Delaware County would be eligible for that grant fund, CARES funding through DCED. That, DCED and that CFA, that's a 6-month process at least to get that money. I just will end this answer by saying, of the 98 million that the county got directly, we've already committed, or tonight we're voting, but committed $3 million of that toward the Delco Strong program that has just been administered. And as we just heard from Patrick, 800 of our businesses are going to get a cash grant from that. And the minute that's finished getting divvied out in a week or so, we're going to start with grant round 2, and we're going to do another round of Delco Strong with a little looser parameters than the first time. The grants, some of them, if you're a bigger business, will be a little bit bigger. And we haven't set exactly what the grand total of that's going to be, but it's going to be a bigger chunk than the 3 million. So we're giving some of that direct CARES money to the businesses as well.
Thank you, Elaine. Pat, would you be able to give a little guidance? I know Elaine touched on a little bit, but when will the Delco Strong grant money be announced? When will those folks find out?
We went through a 2-tier review process. Number 1 had a number of volunteers, including you and all of your staff. Number 2, once we pre-qualified the applicants to make sure that they met the basic criteria, we then have a final review team of 4 folks, including the SBA, 2 folks from my office, a representative from the county, which we were in the process of doing literally 24 hours a day. I got 8 of them for review at 10 o'clock last night from Laura. Our plan is to complete that program. We have already started to disperse the grant agreements and money. We started that last week. We have about 40 of them out. They were the highest scorers in our criteria. And our plan is to complete the process no later than the end of next week. So there are grant agreements on the street, about 25 to 40. As we move through the process and with what we are hopeful, and I'm sure will be positive action at County Council tonight, we'll be able to put more money out as quickly as possible.
I'm going to direct
into next week.
So I'll direct this question to Patrick and Elaine. In terms of nonprofits, I know that there was a little discussion. Can you talk about if nonprofits will be eligible for any of the grants?
Yes, Elaine, do you want to take it or do you want me to take it?
Definitely, in round 2, absolutely. They will, it remains to be seen what the preference schedule is going to be for round 2. That EDOB, the Economic Development Oversight Board, will kind of suggest parameters that we will put around that program. But they were shut out of Delco Strong round 1. We're well aware of that. We've heard loud and clear that they need funding. So yes, they will absolutely be in round 2.
Thank you. Amanda, you might be able to answer this or direct me to the right person. This question was, they usually have a beer stand at their community's farmers market. is this permissible this year? And I don't know where the farmer.
I actually think that they would probably need to get information from the PA Liquor Control Board. It depends on how many days that they actually do that. So if it's just one day, I believe the permitting through the PA Liquor Control Board is for multiple days. So without having more information, I would say if their farmer's market is permitted through the municipality, they could probably reach out to the building code official to find out information on who to contact. It could be something, it could even be somebody on the state health side of ag, but I believe that they would need to reach out to somebody at the Liquor Control Board. And I know they're actually, Steve, I think you were looking into that. I know they're trying to create a very quick automatic approval process for specific things right now. So that would be the direction I would provide someone.
It's also, just to add to that, if that's a private event, private events are eligible in the yellow phase up to 25 individuals. So again, it's, I know some wineries that have the license to do that are going to be doing private events. So the question about the LCB with Amanda is, I have not heard anything yet. It's supposed to be out this afternoon. If that automatic, the application for automatic acceptance is up and running, it's either going to be this afternoon or tomorrow. So as soon as it comes out, we can post it on the website.
Okay, thank you. There are, can anybody, and we are not experts on, we don't have the Small Business Administration folks on this call, but this question was for the EIDL grants. They thought that it was going to offer low interest loans. Do you know anything about that? I'm not sure, Marianne, I think we might be able to connect you with the folks from the SBA, and maybe we can help connect with you on that for those low interest loans that you're looking for, unless anybody else on here would know that.
Trish, what I can just add is that was
perfect.
That was the first round of SBA funding, contingent upon the declaration of the state as a disaster area, which was done in late March, early April. But we could, I mean, between you and our staff here, we can get her in touch with the right people at SCORE to tell you where that is. That money may very well have all been exhausted. Not sure whether or not there's going to be a phase 2 or 3 to that.
Okay, thank you. I do want to just let you know, Councilman Ed Kelly from Springfield, who also is an attorney in his day job, he just sent me a text. He is on this call, but he said he wanted to let everybody know that an email literally just came through as we were on this call that the application is now up and running for the LCB and the LCB site for automatic approval, and it's hot off the presses. So that should just be on the app, and you should be able to do that automatically. So Ed, thank you for that. And let's see, guidelines for retailers. Does anybody want to talk about that? Do you want me to go into it a little bit? Anybody on? So I think in terms of guidelines for retailers, it was very interesting to see how detailed the guidance for the restaurants outdoor dining was. We were all very surprised by that because everybody else was kind of like, oh, go, do what you need to do and be safe. So at this point, I would say if you're following the social distance guidelines and you're keeping your staff safe and your customers safe with hand sanitizers, facial coverings and things like that, that's really what the guidelines for the retailers are, and we can make sure we have that up. We do have that on our website, and we can send that out to everybody, but it is not as detailed as what they're providing for the dining establishments.
Trish, can
yes,
I just add
please.
to that for outdoor sales, for those folks who are following some of the recommendations that they have tables and sales outside, again, just make sure you're reaching out to your local municipalities. There could be a permit for that sort of selling, and they'll be happy to help you and guide you in the right direction. Again, safety, health, and welfare, we have to make sure that those sidewalks are accessible and that folks can get by safely. So just make sure you're reaching out to your local municipality for some guidance.
And we have a question about guidelines for after-school tutoring centers where K through 12 students come. I would think that those guidelines would probably be very similar to the guidance for daycares and camps. I could be wrong, but I do know that starting July 1st, this afternoon, probably about 1 o'clock, there was a release about schools that can reopen in July and with those social distance guidelines. So we will make sure we get that on our website as well, and we will connect you with those guidelines, so we can make sure that after school tutoring program gets that information. I'm not very good with the details. I haven't read it yet, but it does seem to be pretty easy to understand. So we'll make sure we have that on the website.
There's also specific guidance for summer camps, summer programs, and that it might speak a little bit to what you're looking
with
to
this after school tutoring. Yeah, I think that's probably what this business probably needs, but I'm not sure. So we're going through, and I'll just ask the panelists, is there anything that we kind of talked about before that we haven't hit on yet today? I think we're looking at the questions.
Trish, I just want to, I had mentioned in my talk there about the Pennsylvania Restaurant Promise, and I did not follow up on that. And that's basically a promise that PRLA came out with for the restaurants. You can post a placard up on your door as you walk in that you are a part of this, and it's really letting the consumer know that you're taking appropriate actions to protect your employees and the customer. And it's some guidelines to follow, but it's since PRLA came out with this, several states throughout the country have copied this and used it in their own state. And I think this is up on the website already, so they can go in there, and then they can also print out the placard that you can put on your door as you walk in there that you are part of the PRLA, or the Pennsylvania Restaurant Promise. So I apologize, I did not say that earlier. I just wanted to follow up on that.
Okay.
I want to follow up on the question about guidance for retail.
Mm-hmm.
This hits me close to the heart because I have had to put together the guidance for my own business opening up, and I scoured far and wide for like the perfect sample to use, and cut and paste, which of course I couldn't find. But the document that is on the Bringing Delco Back Chamber website that you have to post up at every workplace has sort of the very basic parameters that you have to have in place in order to open up again under yellow. So that is a really good starting point by just really getting familiar with the terms in that required posted document. Another gold mine I found, and very well done document, is the City of Philadelphia put out guidelines for their businesses. Very well done, very detailed. And I stole a lot out of theirs in putting my own businesses together. So I think we have that posted on the website as well. It's a very well done document. So that's another place to look when you're putting together your own guidelines for your business.
I am just checking to see if there are.
And Trish, can I
Yes.
just add also,
Mm-hmm.
following Councilwoman Schaefer on that, is that sharing is super important. The local governments are doing it all the time. Reach out to your fellow business owner, friends, council, elected officials. Reach out to your neighboring communities to see what they're doing and find out what they're doing. I know my council president's on this webinar now, and we've talked to our surrounding municipalities as folks have questions. We all really need to work together. Again, the goal is to keep all of us successful and keep Delaware County moving, and we can all share whatever we can. And I know I've shared my opening plan. Our municipality has been open for essential business for a couple of weeks now, and it's working successfully. So, let's all follow one another's successes and help one another out. So I just wanted to add in again that sharing moment. I think it's fantastic.
There is a question about small gyms, but I'm not really sure. It says, is there any chance that small gyms less than 100 members, mostly one-on-one and semi-private training, will be included in personal services and can be allowed to open in the yellow phase in Aston Township? I don't know if we have the authority to answer that. I don't know if those guidances have been provided yet. Amanda, in terms of municipal government, is that something that you would even be able to say, yes, they can open, or no, they can't? Or is that something that the state would have to provide?
For municipalities,
For a semi-private gym, right?
oh, for a semi-private gym, yeah. So that's above sort of our pay grade, if you will. That would be something handed down by the governor's office in terms of their guidelines and what's allowed to open and not.
And sadly, on its face, the guidelines say no gyms, no salons, no until the green phase. So in that case, I think it would be, trying to find a way to either get a waiver of some sort, or I mean, it's hard when you're shut out on its face. But that actually brings up, if you don't, I don't want to put our district attorney on the spot, but I do want to talk a little bit about enforcement, because there is that, how is this going to work going forward for businesses that don't know what they're doing? If you're afraid, oh my gosh, what if I try this and it's not really, because we're all making judgments and we're all interpreting. And if you don't mind, Jack, speaking a little bit to what would happen if you made the wrong interpretation and you opened up your business, or you did it in a way that ended up not being adhering.
Sure. So all local law enforcement agencies in Delaware County have been operating under the guidance that was provided by the state police back at the beginning of the pandemic. And the state police is the law enforcement agency most directly under the governor's jurisdiction. And so the guidance was drafted in part with his Office of General Counsel, the governor's Office of General Counsel. The guidance was very clear. We are to do everything possible to acquire voluntary compliance. So local law enforcement agencies will come out, and I think especially to your point, Elaine, with a new phase and much more different rules than before, the first thing we want to do is make sure that business owners know what the rules of the road are. And if they have to make a couple of visits to do that or provide information, local law enforcement will do that. The second thing they will do is try to get the owner to agree to a plan of public safety. The last tool in the toolbox is to write a citation. And we have been lucky in Delaware County that we have not, to my knowledge, had a single summary citation of any business in Delaware County. Now, what I will also say is there are businesses that are open right now in Delaware County, to be completely honest with you, that probably are not legally able to open right now. But local law enforcement is using what we call common sense. And if those businesses are not disrupting the public, if they're practicing safe distancing, people wearing masks, people using plexiglass and doing all of those things, each local law enforcement agency is doing their best to make sure that we don't treat business owners who are trying to serve our community as criminals, at the same time trying to walk that very fine line to make sure that we're dealing with public safety. So I think the fair answer to your question is we are not actively trying to hold anybody to a criminal charge, even of a summary citation, if they are open in a way that's improper during this phase or the next phase. But I will warn everybody that the governor has tools in his toolbox, including he could take away, if you have a state license to operate, he could take that away. So state police in this region, local police in this region are all trying to do the same thing. We just want everybody to be safe. We want to do that by acquiring voluntary compliance. There are times when members of the community will get upset because a business is operating, and that has become an issue for some local law enforcement agencies. So, Elaine, it's been a very fine line, but I think everybody is trying to walk it together. And as long as you're cooperating with local law enforcement and we're not trying to escalate, with everything else that's going on in the world right now, we're all trying to use common sense everywhere we can in enforcing our laws. And I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. We really appreciate that insight, and we did have a couple questions about that. So we really appreciate your leadership and your guidance on this one. I think we've answered all of the questions, so I will start the wrap-up remarks. If there's another question that somebody wants to ask real quick before we end this meeting, we'll give you a couple minutes to do so. But I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. This has been a great conversation. This will not be the only conversation that we are having with the businesses. We'll look to next week, bring everybody back together again and find out how things are going, if things are not working, and where we can fine tune those next steps. So we appreciate everybody being a part of this and helping us bring Delco back together. We are Delco, and we really have the best partnerships, public, private, just bringing everybody together. So I want to thank everybody for being a part of this conversation, and please look forward to our next webinars that will hopefully be in the middle of next week. So thanks again, everybody. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Thank you.